Just like this comment says, I think this is when the injury happened. I believe he got hurt against South Carolina. He got pulled from behind and his body twisted weird inside the 10 on a run. Hasn't been the same since. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hope all of you had a great week. Hope all of you having a great Friday. If not, hope this video can make it a little bit better. Man, oh man, we got to talk about Alabama and Jalen Milroe's mysterious injury. Yeah, that's right, you heard me correctly. The weird injury that Milroe has or hasn't been dealing with. It is a very strange situation to say the least. We're going to talk all about that, and ironically enough, or coincidentally enough, however you look at it, we got an update on DJ Lagway's injury. As we all know, DJ Lagway is a very important player and piece of that Florida team moving forward. To go on top of that, we have an update on Trevor Etn, which is Georgia's star running back. Strap in, buckle up, get you a snack, get you a popcorn, get your favorite meal you like to eat when you watch a video, because trust me, I do the same thing. But alright, man, blah, 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 shut the crap up, no, 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 let's get into it. Oh yeah, real quick, let me address this comment that one of you had the nerve to write on the recent video where we talked about Bryce Underwood getting offered $10.5 million by Michigan. This is coming from Bdon-2F2. Breaking news, Matt B. Caillou, I'm just going to let that slide, offers $10.5 million for a hairline. I feel like I've been pretty nice these past couple months during college football season. Maybe it's because I've been in a good mood, but guess what? I ain't playing with y'all anymore. That's 2 strikes, buddy. One more comment like that, and yeah, you heard me correctly, 2 strikes, not even 1. You just skip past the warning. One more comment like that, you're banned. You know what? That might be 3 strikes, and we'll do this. I'll leave it up to you guys because this is a democracy, not a dictatorship. Let me know in the comments, should that be 3 strikes and we just ban B-Don, or do we give him another chance? I got good and bad news for you, B-Don. Your ability to comment moving forward, it's up for the community to decide. The bad news is, your ability to comment moving forward, it's up to the community. Good luck! That's all I'm going to say, because you don't know what our community is going to say down below. Getting that out the way, let's talk about the football stuff, and let's start out with Trevor Etn first. This is really short, simple, and sweet. Breaking news came out late yesterday that Georgia star running back Trevor Etn will not, let me repeat that, will not be playing against Tennessee. Devastating loss. As we all know, Georgia, they've been struggling. They were abysmal on offense against, Ole Miss. Offense line's been terrible. And yeah, not having your best running back, it's going to hurt. And remember, their freshman, Nate Frazier, he had 2 fumbles in that game. Trevor Etn was a seasoned vet. He was Mr. Reliable. Without him in there, who knows what you're going to get out of the running back position. It's already going to be hard enough to run the ball against that Tennessee front 7 without your starting running back. That's going to be something to pay attention to, because if Georgia can't run the ball, that spells bad news for them, because that means Carson Beck's going to have to turn into a superhero. And as we see, when he tries to turn to a superhero, it doesn't work out. Many more things I could say about that. Moving along here to our second topic, update on Mr. DJ Lagway. News came out yesterday that Lagway will return against LSU, which is great news because without Lagway, Florida's not going to beat anybody outside of the Seminoles. At least Lagway gives you a chance, and I feel like this Florida team, they will play better knowing, hey, we got a guy that can go in there and win us the game. It's one of those things, it's not hard to explain, but it's very hard for some people to understand. When your team knows one of your better players, and that is Lagway for this offense, especially at the quarterback position, isn't playing and he's hurt, and now the guy you have in there is not very good, it just depletes them on both sides of the ball. But now with Lagway coming back, I think the entire team, they're going to get a spark. When these players see Lagway step out there on the field, they're going to gain confidence just from seeing that. Glad to see him back. Although the entire Florida team is still dealing with injuries, at least this is a step in the right direction. I would love to talk about that some more, but moving along here to the main topic, the main encore, the main reason you clicked onto this video. What in the world is going on with Jalen Milroe in Alabama? For those of you who don't know, Alabama, they pretty much have a bye week this week. They play Mercer. They don't play an SEC team. It's going to be a walk in the park. I've seen some people trying to argue and say, well, I don't know. Mercer's got a chance. They're like 9-1 this year. Dude, you have no idea what you're talking about. There's a big, and I mean big difference from FCS schools and SEC schools. Because I already know what all these nerds and Timothys and Bobbies are running to the comment section to say, well, Matt, you said the same thing against Vanderbilt and look what happened. Okay, look, buddy. That is way different. Do not compare Vanderbilt and Mercer. I've said it before. I'm going to continue to say it. I'm not going to try to hype up Vanderbilt. It's embarrassing losing to them. It was embarrassing when it happened, and it's still embarrassing to this day, even thinking about it and talking about it. There's no excuse. Vanderbilt shouldn't even be on the same field as Alabama. Now, with that being said, Vanderbilt is still way better than Mercer, and this game is not going to be close. And we're not even here to talk about the game. It's not even going to be a game. What I'm here to talk about is good old Mr. Jalen Milroe, Alabama's quarterback, who rushed for dang near 200 yards against the LSU Tigers. Go Tigers, shout out Ed Ogeron. So there was a rumor going around after the Vanderbilt game, ironically enough, that Jalen Milroe was dealing with a lower body injury. As to what it was, not too sure, because they never listed Jalen Milroe as injured. He wasn't on any of the injury reports. It was just a rumor, but the reason people even started this up is because against South Carolina, he wasn't, number one, running the ball a lot, and number two, when he did take off a little bit, he wasn't really taking off. He was running side to side, wasn't getting north and south, and he looked skittish. He looked timid. In the South Carolina game, he did not look like the same Milroe we saw in the Georgia game. It was very odd to see players actually keep up with Milroe and track him down. He only had roughly about 35 rushing yards in that South Carolina game. Fast forward time into the Tennessee game, similar story, if not worse. There was rarely, if any, designed quarterback runs for Milroe in that Tennessee ball game. He passed the ball nearly 50 times. And even when he was in the pocket, it looked like there were certain opportunities where he could step up and take off, but he didn't do that. He wound up getting sacked a couple of times, and in total for the game, he had 14 carries for 11 yards. It is worth mentioning, and I don't know why we do this, in college, sacks, they go into quarterbacks' rushing numbers, which is just stupid. We need to do what the NFL does. If you get sacked, it doesn't count against your rushing yards. That's just my personal opinion. Fast forward time into the Missouri game, still looked a little iffy. It just didn't look like the same Alabama offense we saw in the Georgia game. Although Milroe did fine in the Missouri game, it wasn't anything special. He had 11 carries, 50 yards. If you watch the games, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Milroe, he looked gimpy in all three of those games. South Kakalaki, Tennessee, and Mizzou. But one of the most telling signs, and I'm going to divert back to this, is there were rarely any design quarterback runs called. It was not like the Georgia game, and it most certainly was not like the LSU game. Speaking of the LSU game, I guess we need to talk about that. Milroe didn't look like he was banged up at all, and it looked like the Alabama we saw in the first half against Georgia. There is no disputing this. We're all in the same boat. That Alabama team we saw in the first half against Georgia and the entire game against LSU, compared to the Vandy game, South Carolina game, Tennessee game, and Missouri game, night and day difference. First half against Georgia and entire game against LSU, Alabama looked like the best team in the nation. Alabama against Vandy, South Kakalaki, Tennessee, and Mizzou, they barely look like a top 25 team. And I'm not the only one who's been thinking about this, because it even got to a point where you had people tweeting out stuff like this. Yeah, 1,000% Milroe's dealing with an injury. He ain't been that explosive since Georgia. And I agree. But here's what was odd about this. A reporter asked Jalen Milroe if he was dealing with an injury. I mean, it got to a level where even reporters and people in the media were like, dang, is Jalen Milroe hurt? But when they asked Milroe about it, he was like, oh no, I'm fine. I just haven't been playing too good. Which as a fan, I love to hear that. Total accountability, no excuses. But then I had to remind myself of who Jalen Milroe is and who his parents are. For those of you that don't know, Jalen Milroe was raised in a military family. His mother and father both were extremely strict on him and held him to a high standard. And I could be wrong, but since his family does have that military background, maybe they were the type to say, hey, yeah, if you are hurt a little bit or you're banged up, no, that's not an excuse. You just got to fight through it. Just like this comment says, I think this is when the injury happened. I believe he got hurt against South Carolina. He got pulled from behind and his body twisted weird inside the 10 on a run. Hasn't been the same since. I'm going to give you my 2 cents on the situation. If I had to bet my house on it, me personally, I believe Milroe was banged up. Because number one, he didn't look as explosive as he once did before the LSU game. And number two, why else would Alabama quit doing what was working? And what was working for Alabama Jalen Milroe was those designs, quarterback runs, where you got Justice Haynes or Jan Miller leading the way. It just doesn't make sense and it doesn't add up. He had to be hurt. In these past couple weeks, I've been trying to debunk it, but after seeing what he did against LSU and the game plan they had against LSU, there's no way he wasn't hurt. The good news for Alabama, as you saw against LSU, it appears to seem that Milroe is no longer battling that injury or apparent injury. And that's the thing, if this Bama team wants to reach their full potential, Milroe's got to be running the ball and he's got to utilize his legs. Because when he's doing that, he is easily the most dynamic player in all college football. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Alabama's going to need him. And let me know in the comment section, what do you think? Do you think he was banged up, or do you think, oh no, Alabama's just struggling in those games? The reason I think he had to be banged up is, yeah, it would make more sense if Alabama was calling those run plays and Milroe just wasn't running well, but it's the fact Alabama wasn't even calling them. That's what throws me for a loop. I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts on all this down below. But